What distinguishes the current world from that of the past is that we become aware of living on a single small planet, the Earth, with restricted natural resources. And soon it will have to feed and satisfy a population of almost 10 billion people, increasingly eager to consume. The business models that we still apply today came from the last 200 years. Then, in that world, the population with the most privileged standard of living was relatively tiny. In that former context, that exploration of the planet was still bearable, even with severe industrial pollution, mostly concentrated in Europe and North America. However, these business models were inefficient. They wasted many natural and human resources. It admitted the occurrence of those heroes, as they were deviations or privileges for those who dominated the world, the owners of production means, the finance, or the retail. For the sake of the long-term survival of humanity, excluding almost certain scenarios with bloody conflicts, possibly with genocides or ecocides that could reduce the population, new economic models must be found to maximize value for all. Fortunately, technology can help to find and sustain new economic solutions. Notably, it may happen through information and communication technologies, or artificial intelligence, or new management models, or nanotechnology, or even renewable energies, among many others. Unfortunately, most companies still apply already for outdated technologies and business models, most of which focus on tangibles, being high consumers of materials, and almost all are very polluting. The economies, especially the poorest, depend much more on stuff transactions, whether raw materials or those with low transformation. Business follow very different models. They achieve very distinct outcomes, and that affects the wealth of nations that embrace them, both as for growth, as the generation of waste and pollution. Currently, these several business models may coexist in each economy, especially what about technology issues, but applied in different proportions. That is what distinguishes their wealth production capacity. The proportion of those business models in each economy depends on the several ambiances in that community, and these latter are the only ones that allow sustaining such business models. At the lowest level of wealth, we find economies that depend almost exclusively on the extraction of raw materials. These communities tend to suffer from very corrupt and authoritarian regimes, with the most population being impoverished and with few human rights. At the next above level of wealth, we find societies that depend on activities which most advantage is the systematic cut of costs, often through a blind practice. There, it is current that few leaders may benefit from its high bargaining power and then to pay little and late to their providers, inclusively the state. Those economies tend to benefit from a weak growth rate. Almost of them produce with low quality. It is easy to handle by anyone in the world. usually only can offer low wages to its majority unskilled labor. That policy of blind cuts and negotiating asymmetry leads to omitting problems of the future. As a rule, with higher costs, thus ensuring the future impoverishment of the population and the economic stagnation. The model that focuses on cutting costs seems to be observed as a common practice in societies with intermediate development level. At a higher level of wealth, it arises economy in which standard businesses focus most on productivity. It's a model based on the supply chain that emerged in the early 20th century from the studies of Frederick Taylor and the scientific management. It's also the model most adopted by most industrial manufacturing companies in industrialized or fast-growing economies, whose populations benefit from a satisfactory wage level. These businesses can achieve good growth when they seek more efficiency in the use of human and technological capital, but they tend to be surprised by businesses that apply even more advanced technology. In this case, some richer economies, whose population is mostly well educated and skilled, and benefit from high salary and quality of life, are those that depend more on high technology, such as automation. These societies invest a lot in knowledge, such as scientific research, and creative industries get what contributes to high standards of their populations, which have strong democratic values and benefit from high society equity. The business that depends on automation tends to exhibit great productivity to high quality products and lower material waste. That is, it leads to lower more and more unit costs of direct production, which implies to the high growth. Wealthiest societies tend to be the ones that increasingly rely on very dematerialized business models with high sustainability, with processes based on knowledge and creativity networks, all of them driven by technology. Here emerges the concept of throughput, which is the most usual way can be understood as a measure of how many units of information or data a system can effectively process in a certain time. The dimension should not limit the process-based business model that relies on information networks, that interconnects all of its agents, who interact and influence to each other for a common goal, through bits flowing among them. Before any physical output, the focus for value creation depends on intelligence, human or artificial, on the interaction among humans and objects, the definition and management of processes that use virtual models which prevail over the material ones. The material production may depend on outsourced processes that operate deep product transformation, with increasing automation, and then less scarce labor, which is very qualified. It applies a lot of energy, essentially obtained from renewable sources. The unit cost in the production of the material object tends to zero, with increasing use of more accessible materials in natural through new technologies and materials engineering. In these leader economies, the mass production will be mainly that of renewable energy production and storage systems. And most of the other products are for shared use in a circular economy model. The investment will come from sources of shared capital as a common role through securitization of the property and other tangible assets. Then, those economies tend to be dominated by institutional investors, such as pension funds or insurance companies. Good business examples based on value creation are Apple or Google, that in recent years have benefited from stratospheric growth and can serve as references to new paradigms. The proportion of application of this type of business models will distinguish the dominance of some economies over others that will stagnate, especially by the high value created or by the profitability to invested capital. Click on the like button below and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. If you want to be notified, click on the bell. Thank you!